welcome to SAP Navigation. At this time, I'm going to share my desktop. So in a moment, you should be able to see my presentation. Alrighty, let's get started. So today we're going to be, in this webinar, we're going to be discussing and showing some basic SAP Navigation. Here's the agenda of what we'll be covering today. So first we're going to be looking into how we log into SAP. Then we'll look at some of the screen elements once you log into SAP. Then we'll discuss how you select functions, which when we refer to functions, we're actually talking about running transactions in the system. Then we'll talk about the use of transaction codes in SAP. We'll discuss how to set up some favorites, which make the navigation a little bit easier once you get used to navigating through the system. Then we'll talk about your user master record and what data you can change and manipulate in your user master record, including parameters, which is the next topic. We'll talk about how parameters can also allow some efficient data entry and how it can control some of the behavior of your screen. And then the last topic we'll talk about today is how to export files. For example, exporting a report to a flat file or to an Excel spreadsheet. We'll talk about that. Okay, so the first topic, in this topic we're actually going to have a demonstration, as we will on most of the topics today. The first topic is logging into SAP. So I'm going to complete a demonstration to show you how to locate the SAP GUI icon on your desktop, which looks similar to this. I'll talk about the elements of the SAP login pad. I'll discuss how you log into the SAP system, and then I'll also discuss initial passwords in SAP and determining whether or not a password is case sensitive. Let me navigate to my desktop here to end this show. Okay, so here you can see my SAP login icon. You can also find your SAP login icon using your Start menu and going into your All Programs and searching for SAP here, and you should be able to find an SAP front-end link. As you open that up, you'll be able to see the SAP login there as well. Most people just have it placed on their desktop. So I'm going to double-click on my SAP login icon to execute the program. And what this does is it launches the SAP login pad. And you can see that there's two tabs here on the login pad. There's a Systems tab, and there's a Shortcuts tab. And what it does when you double-click on the icon is it remembers what the tab was the last time you opened this program, and it will default you onto the tab. So if the last time you were in it, you were on the Shortcuts tab, it'll actually have you here, and it'll look like you may not have Systems set up, but you just have to click on that tab. So you can see here I've got 3 different SAP systems set up. And we discussed systems. If you listened to the previous webinar on the SAP overview, we discussed what the various systems are. So we're going to be going into our ERP tips IDA system today. So to log into the system, I'm going to click on Login. And from here, I can type in my username and my password. And remember, we talked about the concept of clients in the SAP overview lecture or webinar. As soon as I do that, I can either hit the Enter key on my keyboard or I can click on the green check mark. So I'll click on the green check mark. On that login screen, you may have noticed the new password. Let me actually exit out and show you that. So let's say I log in and I wanted to set up a new password. I click on New Password, I get a pop-up. And on this pop-up, it asks me for my new password and to repeat my password. So passwords can be case sensitive, and that's set up by your company, and they are at your company. So keep that in mind that when you set up your passwords, you can use uppercase and lowercase. And your companies can also require special characters and certain numbers of digits as well. So I'm just going to exit out of that because I don't really want to create a new password, and I log in. Okay, so now I'm on the main SAP screen. Let me just navigate back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so we covered all of those topics, how to log in, some of the elements of the login pad, logging into the SAP system, and then talking about initial passwords. So your password will be set to initial if you ever tried to log in too many times and you'd lock your password. If you log in more than 3 times, you'll lock your password and you'll have to request your system administrators or SAP administrators to reset your password. So then you'd have to, they'll give you an initial password and you'll have to reset it when you log in. Or if it's the first time you've ever logged into SAP, you'll have an initial password and you'll have to set a new password. Okay, the next topic is screen elements. So here, when you log into the SAP system, some of these elements that you see on the screen will be familiar to you, like a save icon, looks like a disk. But some of them won't be familiar. Don't worry, you're going to spend plenty of time in SAP getting used to the icons. And I'm going to go through some of those icons now and some of the menu paths and transaction codes and some of the other features found on the SAP GUI. And if you recall from the overview webinar, if you attended that first, the GUI is the graphical user interface, and that's simply just the screen you're looking at on your computer screen. Okay, so once we log into SAP, my login screen, or once I logged in, my main SAP screen looks very similar to this screenshot that we have here. And we have a note here that transactions can be accessed via a menu path or via a transaction code. When we refer to transactions, we're actually talking about executing some kind of program in SAP. So that program might be creating a general ledger account, it might be creating a purchase order, it might be confirming a production order, creating a human resources record. All of the different business transactions have a transaction code associated to them. So let's just, and before we jump too much into transaction codes, let's discuss some of the screen elements we see on this main SAP screen. So here, this is a standard create purchase order screen, a screenshot, and in a moment I'll go back into the system and demonstrate how you see this in a live system. But first, let's look at this screenshot. So the first thing we have pointing here is the command field. This is where you can enter a transaction code, and we'll get into a demonstration of how to use this field in a future section. But that's called the command field, and that's what you can use to navigate from within a transaction to another transaction without having to go back through the entire SAP menu path. Up here, and a little bit of it is covered up, but this is your standard menu bar. Very similar navigation to what you're used to in a lot of the Microsoft applications that you use in your daily work. And then it's got a cascading menu below it. The standard toolbar, these are the icons that are available in just about every SAP screen. So the standard toolbar has your green check mark, which your green check mark is similar to your enter key. The save icon, these three are navigation icons. The first one is the green arrow back. It allows you to go back one screen. Once you get into SAP, you'll see that when you're in transactions, you may be navigating through multiple screens. So in order to go back to the screen you were previously on, you hit the green arrow back. It's similar to navigating back on a web page. So it just navigates you back to the last page you were on. The yellow arrow actually will exit you out of the transaction you're in, and then the red arrow cancels the transaction you're in. You have a print icon if you can print from that screen. You also have a couple search functions here. When it's grayed out, it means that it's not available on the screen. So the binoculars is a search. If you click on that and you're searching for a term or something that some element you might want to find on the screen, you can click on that and you get a pop-up, just like a find in Microsoft products. These arrows will allow you to page up and page down. So this will take you to the top. This will take you to the bottom. So if you're in a multi-page report, for example, this is how you can navigate through that report. These icons, this icon here allows you to create a new session. And then this icon here will allow you to create a shortcut, and I'll demonstrate that when I navigate back over to the screen. Here is the application help button. The application help button will allow you to go into SAP's help.com website, and it should navigate you to help on the transaction that you're on. So if I was in the create purchase order transaction and I clicked on that, it should take me to help.sap.com and take me to the purchase order definition page of how to navigate within that transaction. And then the options button, we'll go into that a little bit when we go into our demonstration.